If you follow my channel, you know I'm all Olivetti. And if you have followed me, you would also know by now that the Olivetti M24 was my first PC. It was also the first personal computer, IBM compatible computer from Olivetti. It was built back in 1983. Let me turn the camera over there. And it's that one. This one is for the Danish Museum of Computer History. I need to check that. But this, as you can see, is the M24. But this is not about this computer. It's about this one. And would you know, it's also an M24. Even new, as it says, P133. With a Microsoft Windows 95 Design 4 logo on it. So what's going on here? This is an Intel 8086 running at the amazing 8 megahertz. This is a Pentium 133. So let's put this one on the table, crack it open, and let's have a look at it. A big thanks goes out to PCBWay.com for supporting today's episode. Besides helping out all the way with all kinds of PCBs, PCBWay also offers you an easy way to CNC machining, sheet metal fabrication, 3D printing, and injection molding. By using PCBWay.com, perhaps your long way from start to finish just got shortened. Get your instant quote here at PCBWay.com. And now back to the video. As you can see, two computers have arrived on the desk. And the reason is, this is the one we're going to look at today. We have previously looked at this one. Up there you can see that. Oh my God, my fingers are so dirty just touching this one. But I just wanted to show you, even though it's kind of like the same theme going on. So using two fingers now. This is the same place, and this is the same place. This is M4, this is M24. So it's not the same series, but the cabinet, completely the same again. What is happening to Olivetti? Why are they reusing casing, but sticking a complete other brand on it? So very quickly, this was the Pentium 75. S is because this is the slimline. There's no S on this one, so don't know. But I'll keep this one on the top while we are twirling around so you can see it's completely the same. So up here we have the beautiful yellow logo, M24 new P133 with the design for Microsoft Windows 95 with the Windows logo for that. In here we have a speaker. This is just some cooling fans. This is a slot that has actually no usage. Maybe it has it in this one, but there was nothing up here when I showed you this one. Here we have the key, seems to be unlocked. Down here we have a logo. There's scratches and dirt down here. This seems to be broken a bit. And when I move this plate also is very loose. So something's happening over here. This is the white bay for 5 1/4 if you want it, or just 3 1/2. And here we have the floppy disk drive and more cooling. Absolutely the same. On the sides, this is the locking mechanism, as we know. We do like this to open it up and turn it around. And it's the same on the other side, but here in the back, again, this is the computer we're looking at. So down here we have the power supply, which is actually the same here. Then we have the PS2 for a keyboard, and I'm not sure you can see it, but there's actually a blue pictogram down here with a keyboard on it, and on this one, which is for the mouse, there is a yellow pictogram. Hope you can see it. So then we have two
slots that could be open and populated with something. We have this slot here, which we now know you can actually get a sound card that can be built in to the computer, and then you can have the sound out here. Again, two weird lightings that we thought or assumed this must be for an Ethernet card. We'll see if there's anything on this board, but there's no actually plug for Ethernet. Then we have the serial and the parallel. Two serial, one parallel. Let me move this plastic off. One parallel over here. And then over here we have the VGA. And again, there is now a pictogram down here, which is like a bluish Turkish color with a monitor on that pictogram. It's a little bit bent again over here, which this one was also. I don't know if you can remember, but I have to push it down and then we could fix it. So it's bent a little bit there, bent a little bit over here. That's it. And we're back. So I will assume that you all want me to crack this one open as fast as possible. So let's do it. Opening on the both sides, turning it, pushing it towards you, and then lifting it up. It's very dirty, but fairly clean inside. But we'll see. We'll clean it up. And here we have the computer. And just before I rearrange the camera, let me just show you the pictograms so you can see them down there. So blue, yellow, and turquoise, I will say this color is. So let me sit this down on the table and arrange the camera for you so you can have a view from above. And I think the first thing we need to do, as we know, it's the same cabinet as the other one. So this can be pulled out. Let me just start by doing that. We need to have it out anyway. So pull it out like this, which is the Razer card. Gives us more view. And then there should be a slot here. Maybe it seems to be stuck. No, there we go. And then I should be able to open this like this. And then we have the hinge down here, way in the back. And as I recall, it needs to be opened up, the power supply lifted out this way. Let's see if that's the same case here. It seems to be, it's a little bit stuck down here. There we go, one power supply out. So let's put this down. Let's see if there's a hard disk. There's a hard disk here. We'll have to come back to that. So let me arrange the camera and have a view from above. So let me move the piece a little bit away because, as you know, oh man, we need to test the power supply. And should I just, I recall last time on the other computer, I just tested it because I felt comfortable testing it. Should we do it again? I think we should, right? Let's just do that. Let's take it out first, a screw on each side here, and that a screw down there. So let me just unscrew this, take this out, and then also unscrew the floppy disk, which is down here. And in order to do that, we probably need to take out the Seagate Seagate ST31276A. Let's take that hard disk out also. So screw there, and a screw there, and a screw there. I recall on the other computer, the hard disk only had one screw in, holding it. And then I will unscrew the floppy disk, which is there and there and there and there. So let me do all this. I also noticed that we have a few screws here in the back, so these three screws also needs to be taken out to get the power supply out. I don't know actually why I'm unscrewing the power supply instead of just testing it as it is right now, but we started this journey together and we shall finish it together, because that's just how it's gonna be, right? So here's the last screw, and I'm sure I'm there almost, like this. So let me just take all the other screws away. And then let's get the power supply out. And it's hinged to this area up here. So the power supply, the power button, which is over here, that is underneath this one. I'm not gonna pull this out, but you can actually, yes, let's do it. Let's do it. We started the journey together. So you can pull it out. And then here in the front, you also have a few screws to unscrew the power button, but let's not do that. So you should be able now to lift out the computer power supply like this. Well, there we go. You know what? No, let's do it. Let's get it out. We didn't pay much attention to the power supply in the other computer. So let's just dedicate this video to that power supply. Oh, you don't even need to screw them all the way out. Okay, I didn't notice that. Let's put the other screw back in again. There we go. So now I should be able to put everything through here. Which leads us to the power supply. Let me just briefly put it to the side and let's have a tiny look at this. So this is probably, well, it is. There's another bay. So the floppy disk was here, the hard disk was down there. And then there's a 5 1/4 bay here, which then can actually just be populated with 3.5-inch devices. I know that these models, you could actually buy them pre-installed with a tape drive, for instance. So that could be put in here. So that's it. This one obviously needs to just be briefly washed, dried with some good air, and then we can put it back together again. Because if I look at my fingers now, I am dirty. And you know, my OCD is kicking off a little bit due to all the grease. And this is the cover plate. That is also very dirty. But that's probably due to the fan in the power supply sucking the air from the front through here. There are holes in this, sucking it all through and into the power supply. So that's probably why it's like this. Power supply. Not gonna open it, just gonna test it. What does it say? It's from DV. Switching power supply model number DSP0584-110A. You can either have this as 110 to 125 or 200 to 250 volts. I'm in Europe, so that's how it is with me here. And I noticed on the sides here you have the switch, and if I just, it's stating 230, so you can move the switch to the other side and then you can plug it in over there in the States, for instance, where you have 110 volts or 115, I think it is. So caution, as we know. Switch power supply. Let's test it. Let's just test it. Before I test it, I'll just blow some air in it just to get rid of the worst thing that could be inside. And I want to clean my hands or fingers. So give me a second. Clean. Air's gone in it. We were talking about briefly about my OCD. I'm not hysterical about having OCD, and it's not a problem in any way to anything that I'm doing. My OCD is that, well, this shouldn't be about OCD, right? But let's just briefly talk about it. My OCD is that I need everything to have rules, and there needs to be an order in a lot of stuff. If I don't have rules and orders, my brain cannot function like sharpish. And it also goes when I'm getting dirty. So when I'm getting dirty, it's not a problem that I'm dirty, it's just my brain focused on that my fingers are all of a sudden dirty. I need to clean them again. So I lose focus, and this is why I need to clean stuff. But there you go. Fine. We have a power supply. I just had some IPA and just took the worst of it off. Let's get this one out and let's test the power supply and see how this one goes. We need some probes, and I already noticed that Olivetti has once again changed the color scheme of their cables. How dare you, Olivetti? Well, Olivetti, in this time period that we're in right now, I don't know what time period this computer specific is from, but I'll figure it out later on. It wasn't the Olivetti computer company as we know from the M24, M24 SP, M28, and so on and so forth. It was actually a complete other company, and this is why you see a lot of different designs of computers. And sometimes, and in some of my computers that I've showed you, you can actually see that they didn't, I need to be kind, right? But they kind of like went from being high quality design computers with brains behind them, thinking about everything, into, oh, I'm a salesman, I need to earn money for a company. So I don't care about the computers inside, I don't care about how easy it is to get access, and so on and so forth. Let's just ship some boxes out to consumers. And this is, if you ask me, this is why Olivetti failed. Sorry, I just had to burst that out also. But here we have, as I said, they changed their color, so it's now red for 5, I must assume. And orange usually, but now yellow for 12 volt. So should we start with, there we go, and ground. So this should be saying 12 volt once we have put on some power. And if I look at the power, I think it's off now. So I need a cable. Hold on. Got myself a cable. Let's plug it in the back. Hope nothing makes weird smells and sounds, and let's see. Power is on now, so let's turn it on, right? So over here we should have 12 volts, and we have 1140. So let's quickly move over and test the 5 volt rail. Give me 5.175. Turning the power off. The bleeding resistor inside is not so nice. It's still on 2.6 volt. This is crazy. It's bleeding out so slowly. So if we had to open this up, and if you have a power supply like this, be very careful. There's high voltage. We're still at 1 volt coming out of it. Crazy. But we have a power supply that's working. So that's good, right? Let's move all this away. And what should we do next? I think we should open up the floppy disk and clean this one out. Usually you won't see me cleaning floppy disk drives and cabinets anymore because it's tedious, right? I love it though. Yeah, well, I love cleaning the computers, but it's tedious. But as this is a computer that's so similar to the other computer, I don't have that much to explain to you because you can still watch the other video. So I'm actually gonna open the floppy disk drive and see, well, blow some air in it and see how we clean it. So up here, you can lift this one up. Usually I use a screwdriver. You can do it on both sides. There we go. And then you should be able to do the same on the other side. Like this. Maybe I should have a screwdriver for this. Yeah. And it's open. It looks fairly clean. But let me find the screwdriver. You see all this crot? All that crot can eventually lead to that this cannot move as smooth as it should. Let me take it a little bit out. So we need to take all this grease out. There we are. Come on, focus. There we are. So I'm gonna move this with some cotton, and let me hold on a second. Let's just get rid of this. There we go. So just to explain how this moves, it's this stepper motor over here, and that has, I don't know what this is called in English. So there are, why don't I know what this is called in English? But nevertheless, so this mechanism here, this metal thing, that one is hooked to the whole reader head. And because this turns this way around, like this, then it stays on there, but it will then go backwards and forwards. So once all this crotch gets dried out, this one would actually slide over it instead of staying in this, wherever we call it. So I need to get all this out, clean it, and give it some new good grease, good oil. So that's absolutely something I need to do. Let's take the front off also. That should be fairly easy. Let me just, where is that? Is that just on the side? I think it is, right? Yes. But how about, there we go, sorry. I wasn't focused. Down there also. This needs to be pushed down. There. Same on the other side. And off it is. Needs to be cleaned. And needs to be cleaned. So let me remove all this. How do I do that? I do that, let me find it. I do it with these. First I start without when they're dry, and then I can get it off like this. Let me see. Oh, sorry, mean. So you see when I turn it, the head moves forward and backwards, and now I can get over here. The thing you need to remember is always this needs to have grease on it, or else it won't work afterwards. So once it's done, You've removed all the grease. Then you need to grease it back again. So I don't know if you can see if I lift it, turn it this way around. So sorry, this way around, it moves that way. So let me try. You see the head? Now I'm turning it this way, so the head should move that way. And the small slider, I hope there's focus there. The small slider down there, that's the one that stays in focus and ensure it moves along it. So I think this is more or less, yeah, this is more or less what we need to take out of this one. So let's do the next thing. The next thing I do when it's like this bad, that's that I put API on it and then I smear it. So let's find me some IPA. I'm almost run out, so I need to go buy some more. Here's a cup. And, should I move the camera a little bit down? There we go. So I don't need to stand up. So again, I'm just going down here and seeing if there's any residue left. And it seems to be, you see it's still, but that's fine. So that's all I'm putting on, I'm not overdoing it. And I need to ensure it's gone, because if it's still there when we put oil on it, the oil will run out. So we just need to ensure that. I think that's fine. So the heads, obviously always clean them if you can. Be very careful, don't overdo it, don't force anything on it. And you can lift up the heads very gentle, like super gentle. You can usually lift them up a little bit. I don't know if you can see it. Let me. So you can lift the head a little bit up, not too much. Don't break it. And then I'll just dab the heads. There are two heads, one on the bottom and one on the top, and I just dab it with IPA. And gentle. I'm doing like this. So don't do like all of this. Just like this, right? That should be it. There wasn't anything. And then I just usually take another one and I then test if there's any dirt, grease like this. If that's the case, which it usually is, it means that we need to go in and try to get all that out if we can. It's not that important, but it's a good thing just to get it out. You see how much is all, come on, focus. There we go, thank you. You see how much came out from in there? And the reason why you need to do that, if you do it, you need to finish. You can't go halfway and then stop halfway, because then you'll have bust bunnies inside there, twirling around while the drive is spinning, and that will go into the actual, between the heads and the floppy disk, and that could actually theoretically ruin the floppy disk or the heads, giving you false reads. So that's like it. What I'm doing now is, as you can see, there's a motor there. That motor, you can't see it from here, but it's down here. It's in there. You see? There. And I'm turning it around so I can also be sure to see if there's any dirt down there. What I could do is I could actually take out the spring, and I can then lift this level or this piece off the board. It's usually not screwed with any screws, so it's just laying down there usually. And then you're having more access if you cannot get in, but I've done this so many times, so I'm actually becoming good at it. And it's not that dirty inside here. While I'm looking, I can see it's not like crazy. So, and it's an old computer, and it's allowed to be a little bit greasy, dirty, a little bit. So, I think that is it. Let me just give the last one here. And then there's usually nothing down here. While we were talking about lubricating the stepper motor, the heads on the other side is actually running on this metal steel thingy, and that also needs to be lubricated a tiny bit. You can also usually, if the stepper motor is weak, you can put some oil inside it. Either you can take this piece off and drip oil this way in, or you can put it in, you can put it in here and then like this, and then turn it around a few times, and then the oil would drip in. But when I did this by my fingers, I can feel that the stepper motor has no problem moving at all. So that is good. So let me just put some oil there, put some oil there. There are no, that's not correct, but there are many different kinds of oil, and some even don't use oil, but they use some, I don't know what it is, some thicker grease. But the oil I'm using is actually for hydraulic pumps, for small hydraulic pumps, and it has a high, I think it's called threshold, where it doesn't, if it's too hot or if it's too cold, it doesn't do any harm to it. It just works. So, because it needs to do that on hydraulic pumps. So I will just keep on using my kind of oil, and all whatever you want to use, you're just going to use that. This is, you can't see the color actually. It's like super fluent. There we go. I think that's it. I think we just are left now with stuff that needs to be cleaned, right? And then we obviously need to have all this out over here. So let me, just for a brief moment, I'm gonna clean this just briefly and put this one back. Once I've done that, I'm gonna clean these two. I'm gonna rinse this one down. This is where we had the power supply and the disk drives. So I'm gonna briefly clean this down again. And once that's done, we can move over, and then I'll put in, sorry. I will then, in the casing for the power supply, I shall be putting it back in the power supply, the floppy disk drive. I'm not putting in the hard disk, which is way over here, yet, until we have tested the board and if it's working. So I'll do that, and then I shall come back to you. So I cleaned everything, and we're more or less ready to have a look at the motherboard. But let me just grab a chair. Let me just sit down. I just want to explain a few things. So first, over here at the power supply. This fell off, I thought, but it's actually supposed to be able to be put in here. So it's supposed to be taken out like that. So that's fine. But I was washing this. This is the on and off button for the power here. And I just briefly, because I wasn't paying attention, I took it out because it was very dirty. But as you can see, it needs to be aligned either like this or like this. And I don't know if it's like this or like this. So when we are putting this in the casing, I need to figure out which way. Just in, if anybody else has the same power and you want to clean this, remember to figure out which way. I will figure that out later. So that's the power supply. And as you can see, I mounted the nice Seagate hard disk also, which is a 1.275 megabyte. Here we have the Razer card. This is a nice Razer card, the same as in the other computer. This is now not dirty at all anymore. This goes in the front of the cabinet, the casing. This is the thing that is over, sorry, let me find it, sorry, here. It's over there. And this is where you have the loudspeaker. And everything has also been cleaned for this. That was also very dirty inside. And this actually belongs to that one, which leaves us with this one, and this one. So, first thing, let me start from the behind the thing. So I need to move this. I have now bent this a little bit up, and I bent this a little bit up there. That needed to be done, because as you may see there, it's crooked up, and over here it's also a little bit. But it should be fine now. This should actually be okay, all good. So that goes over here. And in the front, this obviously sits in the front. And I hadn't noticed until I started cleaning it. Look down there. This is not cute, right? And this needs to be fixed. So the deal is, do it off time. I will put some super glue, but I'll do it inside and up here on the edge. And I will leave it so it should be okay. But this is broken in a way that it's not possible for me to make this pretty again, unless I sand it all down and then I have to repaint everything. Not gonna do this, because this is an Olivetti and it's old. I think actually it's from 1996, but I'm not sure. We'll see. So I'll fix that also. So this goes over here together with the super glue, which is a super glue that takes half an hour to an hour to harden, which is good. So this leaves us with this one. And I don't want to take the motherboard out, because I just wiped the casing down and it wasn't filthy or dusty or anything. So if I just give you a brief twirl around, and yes, we need to go back on this Dallas chip. Hopefully it works. If not, I may actually have a spare, but this one is not sorted. Why isn't there a socket on this one, Olivetti? Well, there we go. So as you can see, it's actually very clean. There's not much dirt. So I have decided that this is gonna stay inside. So let me mount the camera, and then we shall have a walkthrough of the motherboard. Let's dig into the motherboard itself, and let's just have a brief and quick twirl around this Pentium motherboard. The first thing I want you to know about is, and I need to lean in, I'm sorry, that's the board number, so the actual motherboard number. This is a BA2284. So every time you need to look up documentation for Olivetti computers, specifically to understand the motherboard, you need to locate that number. Because for the same model, you could have different kinds of versions of the motherboard. Don't ask me why, it's just a fact. There you go. I think it's kind of like as you have revision numbers on motherboards, other kinds of motherboards already had these numbers. So there we go. So over here, we then have the star of this show, although I thought it was the power supply, no, fun aside. So over here we have the Pentium, and this one is running at 133 accordingly to the front of the casing of this computer. Let me take it out first. So we have this, we need to move on both sides. No, sorry. This is the second level memory, and I want to take this out in order not to break anything. So, and I'll come back to this one. So let me just put this away, which gives me room for accessing the actual CPU here. And because the level in the back down there is so tight to the heat shrink, I need to brute force gently into it with a screwdriver to lift it out and up at the same time. There we go. So moving it up, I should be able to remove it from the socket. And if I turn it the right way, sorry, there we go, I think. And it's connected to a fan power down here. So let's just do this. So as you can see, this is more or less the same CPU, at least the same CPU number, 80502, means second edition, as the other computer. So this is 80502 133, sorry, where you saw that the other computer, CPU from the other computer was 75. So let's just put this one back where it belongs. If I can remember, almost effed it up. So over here we're missing a pin, which we have to match up to this area. So it's like this. So let's put this one back again. Put the level down, like this. And then securely mount these extra brackets on the side that should clip in like this. Cool. So that's the CPU. This is running at 3.3. This is why we have a power regulator, a small one down here that will regulate it from the 5 volt down to the 3.3 that this Pentium 133 megahertz needs. A lot of numbers at one. Well, there we go. Briefly, just want to explain to you, not in depth, but just briefly want to explain to you, these are the jumper settings and the specification. You can look that up in the manual for this board, specific board. You need the specific board, but you also have it over here. So the first one is actually whether or not the VGA, which we'll come back to, it's over there, is enabled or disabled. Then the two next ones is the clock frequency that you have on the actual CPU up here. Then you have something about you can clear the CMOS, which is over there. We'll also come back to that. Then you have U1, sorry, it's J1 and J2, which is related to the what is it called? The multiplication that the CPU has to the bus. I will show the specific configurations on the screen right now somewhere. I'm pretty sure you can see it now, right? So that's this area, CPU. Moving up to RAM. So up here we have the memory, the RAM, and in between that we have this block. And if you have watched the other video, I'm really going back to the other computer, the M24 P133, because it's the same. It's another motherboard, it's the same computer anyway. So I didn't have this board which plugs in there on the other computer. it's over here. This is a second level cache. So this literally sits between the CPU and the memory over here. And it plugs in like this. And this gives me 256K of second level cache. Down here we also have some Intel PCI chipsets, related chips. Wow, nice word, right? Also related to the second level cache. And then obviously here we have 4 banks. Well, we actually have 2 banks, but they come in pairs. So this one, which is populated, is bank 0. This one behind us is bank 1. You need to have a minimum of 8 megabytes in a Pentium Olivetti computer like this. So therefore we have 4 megabyte and 4 megabytes. And you can have maximum of 32 RAM slots, sticks put in. So that's 128 megabyte of RAM in total on this one. Moving a little bit in. Oh, sorry, hold on a second. Just one more thing. This is the same as the other computer. Over here we have the 4 connectors, which connects the peripherals. So the one that's actually not populated right now is because it's for the speaker, and which is here, which sits and goes in here. So with the bracket on it. And that one is populated down there. The next one is the green lighting in front, which is the power on and off. The yellow one is the hard disk LED connectivity or activity, and then there's a fan. In the other computer, you may recall that we didn't have a fan on the CPU, so that wasn't populated. So there you go. Now we see this same function with a fan connected to it. So let's move away from this. Over here we have the chipsets. These are the same chipsets as in the other computer. So it derives what we already know a chipset like this does. And then we up here have the graphics area, and it goes like this. So this is a Trident, a TGUY 9680-1. This can be populated with 2 megabytes, and this currently has only 1 on it, so you can extend it with additional 1 megabyte of RAM. Here we have the feature connector for the video. This up here is the flash memory for this board. These settings up here are related to flashing or configuring or resetting the flash memory. Again, you can look it up in the manual. Here we have the Razer card extension thingy, which is this one, which is an ISA, 2 ISA, and /OR 2 of these 16-bit up there. So that goes in like this. Moving up here, which I want to explain a little bit about. So this connector and this here, together with these two, and let me now show you from the back of the computer. Hopefully we can see it. I'm not sure, but it's in here. So in here, and these two over here, these are actually for a sound card. So you can have a specific sound card put in, which has joysticks output also, which then is populated over here in these slots over there. So this is for the sound card. Sadly, I still don't have a sound card like that. If we then move further back, this is the Amy BIOS up here, sitting up there, and this is the chip that actually handles all the peripherals, the IOs and stuff. Here we have an AT power supply, and over here we have floppy disk, first hard disk and secondary hard disk. And then we're back with the RAM. So that concludes this twirl around this Olivetti motherboard, and I think it's just time for me to assemble it. And then we'll put some power on it and test whether or not it actually works. So let me do that. So let's put some power to it. I will leave the mic down here, so in the case that it actually works, we can hear if it does anything. And I shall be pressing the button, and let's hope for the best. Before I started, just the Dallas chip. As we know, there's a Dallas chip in here. So this will most likely not be working. This is why I actually have decided to boot on DOS first before we do anything. That way we can also test the floppy disk drive. So let's turn it on. Fan is spinning, so there's power into the board. I see and I hear the loudspeaker, and I see some activities on the hard disk. Keyboard is punching up, everything is up here. Main processor, unknown, weird. So it doesn't recognize that there's a Pentium on it at the moment, but let's just start into DOS. And with the tiny APROM up there, I have now, sorry, there we go. I am now in DOS. Let's say date. It's definitely not that date. So let's do August. I have no idea. 10, 2022. Time 12. Like that, just to confirm date. Time. That's it. Let's turn off the computer. And let's give this 10 minutes time to do its thing, and then we shall start it again and see if it stores the date and time in the Dallas chip, which you can't see, which is way down there. And I'm back. Let's turn on, give it some power. And let's move over here again. Putting in the disk drive, turning it on, booting into DOS. And we're back on the APROM. Let's do date. And it went back to 1980. The Dallas chip is done. So I have located other Dallas chips. So we need to desolder the Dallas chip, put in a socket, and install the new one. But this has gone for a while, so let's wrap this up for now, and let's see what the plan is with this one. As you can see, it's now booting into Windows 95, Italian. I just briefly looked at it. There are private documents and other private stuff on this, so I'm not going through all of this. So just to show you that the hard disk is actually booting up on Windows. The Dallas chip is not working. I have actually 3 spares. So next episode, because this is episode 1, this is going on for a little bit too long, right? So this is episode 1. I'm gonna make an episode 2, desoldering the Dallas chip, putting in a socket and installing the Dallas chip. Olivetti, that socket should have been in from the beginning, right? So once that's done, I want to extend the motherboard. Currently we have 4 megabyte times 2, so 8 megabyte in it. And I over here have 8 megabyte sticks, so 16 and 16, 32. So I can populate this with 32 megabyte. I want to do that. I also want to put in a network card. This is from 3Com, so we'll put that in. hook it to the network, of course. Then I want to put in some sound, because the PC speaker, as you heard, is like, well. So I want to put in a Sound Blaster card. I will probably need to have a CD-ROM drive in it, so that will be in the top bay that I can install the CD-ROM drive. This is actually also a DVD drive. I'm not sure it's going to be this specific one. I need to think about it because it's black, and I want one that is in gray, but I can't locate one right now, so maybe I'll find it. So once that's done, I want to install, this is why I here have the original Windows 98 with the boot disk and the license. I want to install that also on the computer, because it's a Pentium. It should actually be able to run Windows 98. I'm not gonna sit and work on this day in and day out, and so I don't care that it may be a little bit too slow. It's just that 95 is a bit unstable and 98 is a bit stabler. So let's do that. So with all of this, and sorry end like this, but it's taking too long. We're gonna make an episode 2. Stay tuned for that. Until then, please give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe to the channel. This way you get notified when episode 2 comes out. And ring that bell. You know all the YouTube stuff. Again, I want to thank you for watching. My name is Taibo, and see you soon. Goodbye.